Welcome children. Today we will continue our lesson Mughal Empire. Okay, Mughal Empire. So in this we already discussed some topics. Okay, so we already knows about the important Mughal emperors. Okay, and about Mansabdar and Jagirdars. Okay, so now we are going to know about from this lesson Japt and Jamindars. Okay, Japt and Jamindars. So what is Japt and what is the work of the Jamindars? So that all we will learn now. Okay. So here actually for this Mughal empire, so the main income from the collection of the taxes from the peasants. Okay, main income for this Mughals, collection of the taxes from the peasants. Peasants means farmers, I told you, right? Peasants means farmers. So at that time what was happened, Akbar. Okay, so Akbar told to his minister, his revenue minister, that Todarmal. Akbar have his revenue minister Todarmal. His name was Todarmal. Okay, so he told to his revenue minister that cleanly you should have to be carefully observe that how much they are getting crop. Okay, and what is the price in the market, and do they getting yield every year, or else do they facing any droughts. So like this, go and clean study. Okay, and carefully clean study about and survey about the crop yields, he said. So the Todarmal also did the same, that he did survey carefully on about the crops of that year. Okay, so on basis of that data, on the basis of that collected data, then they go for the fixing of the taxes. Okay, they fixed the tax was on for each crop. So okay, they differentiate for each crop, they fixed the tax. Okay, so these revenue system. Okay, so each different crop have they fixed the tax. It's all they have studied about after the careful study about their crop and the yield and the price. Okay, on aspect of all this, they fixed the taxes for the each variety of the crops. Okay, so this kind of revenue system is called as JEP. Okay, these kind of revenue system, understand, these kind of revenue system is called as JEP. That means in the Mughal emperors at the time of Akbaritian, so whatever they followed, okay, whatever they followed revenue system, so that system is called as JEP. That system is called as JEP. Okay. So at the times of the Akbar, whatever they collected the tax, okay, so that revenue system is called as JEP. And next is about the Jamindars. Next is about the Jamindars, or else we can pronounce as Jamindars also. Okay. So look at here. Usually at that time some people whoever belongs to the Jamindars used to collect some taxes. So actually they used to call us like a headmans. Okay, so at the time of Mughal emperors, so each village headman used to collect the tax, and he is responsible for all the responsibilities of that village. So like that it was. Okay, but at the time of Mughals, so for that headmans and for the chieftains of that places only, he called them and he gave the name as the Jamindars, and he told them to be, you continue that collection of the taxes, and you can take from that taxes only, you can take as a salary of some, and you have to give me back remaining all the collected revenue. So like that, previously whoever the headmans or as chieftains of that so and so villages, so these Mughals have changed into their name as Jamindars. Okay, and these Mughal emperor but existed on hereditary basis, that his sons succeeded when the fathers died, and they received a share of revenue collected by the Jagirdars from the area, and some also due from the farmers and others. Okay. Here the Jagirdars, again one more word, you should not be confused. Here the Jagirdars means like a village headman role used to collect the taxes. Okay, so here the Jagirdars means the Jagir means like if we call a village and mandal, how we will call, no? So same like some places combined, it's called as Jagir. And for that Mughal emperors appointed some of the officials like Jagirdars. Okay, and here the Jamindar peasant revolts challenged the stability of the Mughal Empire from the end of the 70th century. And here now you are going to know about a closer look at the Akbar's policies. Okay, I told you now among all Mughal rulers, so Akbar have the uniqueness in their ruling. Okay, so here they have given some about the Akbar's policies which he followed. Okay, so mostly Akbar follows in his ruling some of like a system of ethics like honesty, justice, peace. Okay, so and as well as he followed that, he informed to all the people also should be followed that all religions also bring together and universal peace. So one day he in his administration place, okay, he made a discussion with his friend and members of his court. Okay, and while Akbar was at Fatehpur Sikri, that means it's near the Agra. Okay, so at that time during 1570s he initiated some of important discussions about the religions. Okay, so in that meeting we discussed about the religions, and at that religions about with whom, with the Muslim scholars, with the Hindu scholars, and with the Jesus priest, and with the Roman Catholics and Zoroastrians. So that means he called the meeting for different religions head peoples. Okay, and he made a discussions among this all the people about if we have all the religions we make in practice, but we all belongs to sort it to one place, or else one people, like say interested to religion and social custom of different people. He wants to bring together people of diverse faiths. So at that time at that time eventually they gave the idea to the Akbar that Sulh-i-Kul, they gave the idea to the Akbar that Sulh-i-Kul means nothing but universal peace. Okay, universal peace. Universal peace. Universal peace. Okay, Sulh-i-Kul means universal peace. That is means what? This idea of tolerance did not discriminate among people of different religions in this kingdom. Okay, so that means in his kingdom should not be discrimination with the one religion with another religions. Okay, so all are belongs to unity. Okay, so that was the Akbar's opinion, and he told to the people also. Okay, so after this like this, and he follows some of the ethics also, like honesty, justice, okay, and peacefulness among the people. So like this all the policies of the Akbars, okay, all the policies of the Akbars followed by his next generations, only followed by Jahangir and Shah Jahan's. But at the time of the Aurangzeb did not follow about all his rules, especially at the times of the Aurangzeb region. He gave the more priority for the Sunni Muslims. Okay, this is the Akbar, about the Akbar policies. Okay, so and next is about the Mughal Empire in the 17th century and thereafter. Okay, so in the 17th century about the Mughals Empire and thereafter. So here administrative and military efficiency of the Mughal Empire led to the economic and commercial prosperity. And international travelers also described about this is a fabled land of wealth. And some of other visitors also described that, appalled that the state of poverty, okay, and contrast to the greatest wealth. So some of the inequalities also were there. Of course, it became the good administrative kingdom and wealthier kingdom. But what was happened, so they appointed more mansabdars, okay, and most of the people like mansabdars, whoever worked, so they got the salaries and they led the best life at the times of the Mughals. But poor people always they suffered, so that's why it is lead to the poverty. And at the times of the Mughals, mostly the wealthier peasantry, artisanal groups and merchants and bankers profited. Okay, so these are all became profited in his period. But what was happens, because even mansabdars also, they have appointed many mansabdars, so they also got the good salaries. So especially the poor people suffered a lot. Okay. And at that time, what was happening, slowly in the 17th century, the Mughal emperor became slowly declined. The Mughal emperors became slowly declined, and they announced as into some like independent after also. Although they continued to recognize the Mughal emperor in Delhi as their master, but by 18th century, the provinces of the empire had consolidated their independent political identities. Okay, so that means that was the end of the Mughal emperors. So then after Asaf Jahis ruled. Okay, so here they have given Asaf Jahis timeline. Okay, Asaf Jahis timeline. So Asaf Jahis timeline, here they have given some of the important rulers of Asaf Jahis. So here Nizam ul Mulk, it's called as first Nizam, Nasir Jang, Muzaffar Jang, Salabat Jang, and Nizam Ali Khan, second Nizam, Sikindar Shah, third Nizam, Nasirud Dawla, fourth Nizam, Afzal ud Dawla, fifth Nizam, Mir Mahbub Ali Khan, 6th Nizam, and Mir Usman Ali Khan, 7th Nizam. So here if we observe, there are 10 Asaf Jahis emperors, but only 7 emperors got their title as the Nizam. Mughal emperors, okay, some of the Mughal governor gave them some of the title only for this 10. Out of this 10, only for 7 members only they gave the title. So Nasir Jang, Muzaffar Jang and Salabat Jang, they did not receive the title of Nizam. Okay, so after the weakening of this Mughal empire, one of them, so the Mughal governor accepted their independence. Okay, so at that time, one of them was Subedar of the Deccan. Subedar means like who is subordinates to the kings and all like that. Okay, so one of the Subedar Deccan means like a south side of the India. So one of the Subedar was there in the Deccan side. Who is that? Chin Kulchi Khan. So he is also known as Nizam's ul Mulk first. Okay, Nizam ul Mulk first one. So he is also known as the Chin Kulchi Khan. Okay, so he was the founder this Asaf Jahis dynasty at that time. Okay, he was the founder of Asaf Jahis dynasty. Who was the founder of the Mughal empire? Babur. Who was the founder of the Asaf Jahis dynasty? Who is that? Nizam ul Mulk. Okay, and we can call as Chin Kulch Khan. Okay, so and he was the founder of Asaf Jahis dynasty of Hyderabad state in 1724, and he ruled many years. Okay, he ruled many years, like 24 years he ruled. And next they were got the titles of the Nizams from the Mughals. So next followed is all the Nasir Jang and Muzaffar Jang and Sarabad Jang, like that many other kings were following of this Chin Kulchi Khan. Okay, so at that time some of these Nizam kings were helped to the Britishers, and some of them did not encourage the Britishers' thought. So here they have given added one figure of the Salar Jung. Okay, this is the figure of the Salar Jung. Okay, so Salar Jung was the Prime Minister of the Nizam between 1853 to and 1883. He embedded colonial development schemes, okay, and colonial modernization under the influence of the British officials. Okay, so that's why they selected as the Prime Minister of that regions. Okay, and among this all, one of the other one, sixth Nizam, okay, Mir Mahbub Ali Khan. So at that time marked with these region, sixth Nizam rule time. Okay, here sixth Nizam means who? Mir Mahbub Ali Khan. So at his times they did number of reforms. Okay, they did number of reforms. See, Asafia Library, Victoria Memorial Orphanage, Mehboobiya Girls School were established. Who? Sixth Nizam. That means Mir Mahbub Ali Khan established this all: Asafia Library, Victoria Memorial Orphanage, and Mehboobiya Girls School. You know what? Among these all, some buildings yet to be are there, like monuments. Okay, so some they are used as our government officials, some like hospitals. Okay, so they are using like some hospitals, and he marked with a number of reforms also. Okay, and in his period at that time in 1918, he personally supervised the relief operations at the time of Musi River floods. Okay, so that means when the Mir Mahbub Ali Khan was ruling now, so at that time Musi River faced the floods. So at that time he personally supervised the all relief operations and offered prayers to the God also. Okay, and he offered the prayers to the God about their people who were suffering with the floods. No, so he offered the prayer to the God and provided shelter also. Okay, Mir Mahbub Ali Khan provided shelter for the victims also. Okay, and next the seventh Nizam. Okay, seventh Nizam determined to protect feudal power structures despite the popular movements for liberal administrative reforms. Of course, about this we will clearly know in the another lesson about the seventh Nizam. Okay, and here they have given about the Sardar Sarvai Papanna. Okay, he belongs to Warangal district, which is there in our Telangana. Okay, he fought against the Mughal rule in Telangana. So why we are studying about Sardar Sarvai Papanna now? Because he belongs to, actually he lives in Warangal district. He fought with the Mughal emperors. Okay, and he lived during the period of Aurangzeb. So in the Mughal emperors many were ruled, no? So at the time of the Aurangzeb, no? So at that time Sardar Sarvai Papanna ruled against opposed to the Aurangzeb, and he supported the lives of many poor people who were backward and downtrodden. So he always supported the backward people. Okay, so and Sardar Sarvai Papanna belongs to Telangana. Okay, so they added some figure also in this here. Okay, so and you know what? So how usually to sit the Akbar, and while he is discussing about that, one of the figure also they added here. So Akbar usually sit in the meeting, and they called off different religions people into the meeting. So at that time only they announced that universal peace sulh hai kul. Okay, so this is about the lesson.